So what do you think about President Biden coming to town today?
Well, look, it's always great when a president comes to your home city to talk about the issues that are important. But I hope that the president chooses to focus on all crimes, because the reality is it's not just the gun violence. In fact, the other day over the weekend, someone was stabbed to death, a young man stabbed to death in my Bay Ridge part of the district. And it's really troublesome to see rape, robbery, grand theft auto, all categories of crime almost rising in this city, and he has to address all of it, number one. Number two, he has to show support for our law enforcement who are doing this job day in and day out, particularly now where we are seeing police officers shot. 6 alone here in the city of New York, 2 fatally, sadly. That needs to be addressed. The defund the police rhetoric needs to be addressed. And of course, they have to work together to keep criminals behind bars. We are seeing all too often prosecutors that don't want to prosecute, judges who are appointed who are letting criminals back onto the street. The governor's parole board is releasing convicted cop killers and murderers. All of this has to be addressed in this discussion.
All right, let's talk about your district, because you mentioned it. It is different. State lawmakers actually redrew your district. Now you have a lot of Brooklyn does not exactly mesh with Staten Island. And there's talk that Bill de Blasio may run against you for Congress. What do you think?
You know, the Democrats in Albany have decided to take what has been my district for the last year, but it's been this way for 4 decades, to change the dynamics, to try to change the rules, to tilt the scale, to elect a Democrat instead, because I am somebody who has been vocal. I've called them out. I've been holding them accountable, particularly with rising crime, these mandates and increased taxes that have really destroyed the cost of living here and are driving people out of our state. They don't want anyone who's holding them accountable. But the reality is this is very fair to the people of Staten Island and southern Brooklyn, because just over a little over a year ago, they fired my predecessor, Max Rose, and hired me to be their voice. And what the Democrats in Albany are doing are attempting to silence their voice and their will. And so, look, they know they can't beat me on policy. They know they can't beat me on the issues because they've been wrong on all these issues. And so they're doing the best they can to change the rules. It's sort of the same dynamic we've seen in Washington this year, where they've tried to change the Senate rules to eliminate the filibuster. Jerry Nadler introduced a bill to pack the Supreme Court. They've tried to change the election laws 3 times. Look, they failed all those attempts. I believe that we will still prevail and be elected. But I think it's wrong to put 2 communities that have just different values and different ideology together. And the point is that very well, Bill de Blasio could represent Staten Island. I mean, that is pretty outrageous.
Well, could you take on Bill de Blasio? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, when I ran for mayor against Bill de Blasio, we got 70% of the vote in Staten Island, and we did win the entire new congressional district. So I believe that the people of the district that I currently represent know that I'm working hard, I'm doing a good job. We've resolved thousands of constituent issues. We helped dozens of people become United States citizens who were caught in the red tape. We have been resolving issues for everyday Americans that they've been, dealing with getting them money that they're owed from the government, helping them with all sorts of different issues. And I know that they will reelect me. It's a new district that I'll need to introduce myself to. But certainly Bill de Blasio should not be going to Congress. And I think people will come out really strong to send him a message.
Well, we certainly will welcome that challenge. I do want to ask you, because you talked about policy, you introduced illegal guns legislation. It did not get approved in Congress yet, and that was back in 2021. Why did that not get approved?
I'm not sure which legislation you're talking about. I have introduced.
This was Protecting Gun Crime Saves Lives Act. So this legislation increases investigations and prosecutions of convicted felons, which is exactly what people are calling for right now. But why would that not get play? Why would that not get passed? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think when you hear some of the politicians in Washington, particularly Speaker Pelosi, they want to go after the Second Amendment. They don't actually want to focus on the real problem, which is illegal guns being trafficked. And we have to go after the criminals. That's where the focus is. As a matter of fact, my bill would address an issue where people lie. They use false documentation to obtain a gun. And these crimes are not being prosecuted. As a matter of fact, many of them are referred to the ATF, and only less than 1% are actually being prosecuted. So we have to focus on the real issue here. And also, by the way, I'll bring up the bail law in Albany. 9 out of 10 individuals who are caught with an illegal firearm are being released back onto our street. 50% of them who actually shoot people are being released back onto the street. That is what the New York City Detectives Union told me at a recent roundtable that we had. So if the governor's serious about addressing this issue, she needs to keep these criminals behind bars. And let's focus on making sure everyone gets their constitutionally protected right to a speedy trial. We don't just release them back onto the street.
Good point. Representative Nicole Malliotakis, thank you so much for coming on Good Day New York.
Thank you.
All right. And coming up